right, everyone. Notes, Sidurim, and Humashim away. We're having a pop quiz. Are we ready? It's one question. And here's the only stipulation. If you learned at Timely Torah with me last week, you can't answer. Okay? Deal? All right, here it is. For all the 7-layer cake at Kiddush. Ready? As we stand here today, in the year 2023, what is considered to be the most sacred space in all of Judaism? Anyone? I heard something. Home? All right. I'm seeing agreement. Okay. Liz, you get all the 7-layer cake. Beautifully done. More specifically, so the Jewish home is considered to be the most sacred space in all of Judaism and contemporary Judaism. The Jewish home, and more specifically than the Jewish home, our dining room table. Okay? So this declaration, in case anyone wants to keep me honest, this declaration is found in Masechet Chagiga in the Talmud, where it says that in the days of the temple, in the days of the Beit HaMikdash, the altar served to atone for us, but now it is our table that atones for us. And the Rashi on that line, the great commentator Rashi, who comments on this very line, goes even further and says, stating that it is not just our table, but it is the inviting in of guests for Shabbat and Yom Tov to sit around our Jewish tables, that atonement is possible. In our tradition, after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, after the temple was destroyed, the Jewish home, our kitchen and dining room table, became the new altar. And I want to let that set in for a second, because that is a radical theological statement. That's radical. The rabbis aren't saying that our tables, that our meals are important. They are saying that they are the literal place of divine communion, the place where we as Jews get to be fully present with God. And the expression of that truth is laid out in our Shabbat and Yom Tov meal ritual, a ritual that, like many, if not most rituals in Judaism, is pageantry. And I don't use that word as a pejorative or as minimizing in any way, quite the opposite. It is pageantry as a replication of the temple service that existed thousands of years ago. We bless the Sabbath day with a cup of wine, with a wine offering, just as the Kohanim, just as the priest did in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Holy Temple. Then we ritualistically wash our hands, Natilat Yadayim, just as the Kohanim did in the Beit HaMikdash. And then we uncover our korban. We uncover our sacrifice in the form of 2 loaves of chalot, corresponding to the 2 lambs that were brought to the Kohanim during the days of the Beit HaMikdash. We bless them and salt them, just as the Kohanim did. And you might have even seen, or it might be even your minhag or your tradition at your home, that before or after saying the bracha, you actually drag a knife over the 2 loaves of challah, a recreation of the shechting, of the ritual slaughter of those 2 lambs, and then we eat them, just as the Kohanim did. And if you want to see what this used to look like, feel free to turn with me to page 158 in your Siddur. You can get them back out now. The quiz is over. In a part of Musaf that we are about to say in just a few minutes together, maybe some words that we are kind of on autopilot, so we kind of skip over them sometimes. But in that middle of page 158, I know that some of you have melodies for this very portion. Uviyom HaShabbat, Shnei Kavasim B'nei Shana Temimim. Offerings for the day of Shabbat were 2 yearling lambs without blemish, together with 2/10 of an ephah of choice flour, mingled with oil as a grain offering, with the proper libation, a burnt offering for every Shabbat, in addition to the daily burnt offering and its libation. So listen, I know that this might seem like it's taking a little bit of the magic out of what some of us have been taught about our Shabbat rituals. Just a show of hands, who has been taught that we cover the chalot so that we don't embarrass the wine while saying Kiddush, right? Or that we salt our challah to remember that even in times of joy, we need to remember the bitterness of exile and the destruction of the Second Temple, hands. So these are different drashes, they're different interpretations of this, but I'd argue that this meaning, the pageantry, the recreation, is even more significant, is even more powerful because it allows us to really put ourselves in that beautiful role of drawing close to God through an ancient practice that has lived with us for millennia. And if that doesn't quite speak to you, no problem. I'm completely okay with embarrassed challahs. But why this is all important, why I'm choosing to talk about this morning and not some of the very other important things that are going on in the world around us, things that are going on in Israel, things that are going on in our very community, things that deserve sermon time, is because I think that if we can understand Shabbat a little bit better, if we can understand our Jewish homes a little bit better, then we can take on all of the challenges of this crazy world together a little bit better. Because I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look in the papers or on the news lately, but unless you're a Princeton basketball fan or were somehow part of the production of Everything Everywhere All at Once, things feel a little bleak. It's scary out there. It's angry out there. It's tense. It's bitter. It's inflamed out there. You spoke beautifully about that. And we really need refuge. We need time and we need space that goes beyond the meshugas all around us and allows our souls to heal, to recharge, and to reconnect with a very important truth. The truth that all of this, all of that outside stuff is transient. And that yes, even if it doesn't feel like it, even if it doesn't feel remotely like it, it's going to be okay. Rabbi Starr and I have both spoken at length about the importance of Shabbat, about how, as the beautiful expression goes, that more than the Jews have kept Shabbat, has Shabbat kept the Jewish people. That Shabbat has a way of sustaining and maintaining. That it has a way of sustaining and maintaining Jewish community, Jewish continuity, Jewish values, and Jewish observance. But what we don't talk about nearly enough is that while Shabbat is good for the Jews, Shabbat is also an incredible gift to you. To you. To you, Neil. To you, Barb. It's a gift. To you personally. And yes, it is a gift in the ways that we talk about frequently, that it encourages unplugging, stepping away from the work week, focusing on family and friends and community, slowing down and being in the moment. But it is also a gift on this incredible metaphysical level that we learn about this morning in our parasha, as we read about the completion of the Mishkan, the edification of God's dwelling place on earth. The gift is a gift of zachor, of memory. Because the ultimate gift of Shabbat is that table in our homes. That moment when we stand together with those smiles on our faces as we get ready to say Kiddush, that moment of offering a symbolic sacrifice of bread and wine and salt and water for the sake of saying simply, God, even if it is just for this one moment of these 25 hours of Shabbat, raise me up above all of the insanity and just be with me. And that gift is something that we can't quantify or qualify. It is theologically, emotionally, psychologically priceless. And this is important. So if you're going to hear one thing and one thing only from me this morning, please make it this. And you deserve it. You deserve it. I saw a quote the other day. I'm not sure where it's from, so apologies for not citing my sources, but the quote was, "Forgive not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace." And the profundity of that quote, the adaptability of that quote, is that you can put a lot of things in the A slot of that A-B statement. Be gentle with yourself. Not because you are free from fault or mistakes, but because you deserve peace. Move on from a toxic relationship, not because it was meaningless or didn't matter, but because you deserve peace. You can put almost anything you want there because the real essence of the quote is the B part. You deserve peace. You do. You do. So put aside all of the other aspects of Shabbat for 1 second. The question of obligation, of chiyuv, of commandedness, of Jewish continuity, of shamor and zachor, and all of the other things we are so good at invoking for the sake of observance through guilt, and for just right now, be with me in this understanding of Shabbat. That on this morning, when we read about the building of the Mishkan, we are not reading just about an ancient portable tent. We are reading about an unbreaking invitation to destroy all boundaries of hierarchy, class, difference, and distinction, and to let God, however you define God, as long as that definition upholds an element of transcendence, of going beyond all of this, give you peace. To let God give you peace, because you deserve peace. 2,000 years ago, our ancestors would make the trek on Friday to Jerusalem, and they would take with them 2 lambs, an offering for the Holy One. But they would drop their lambs off with the Kohanim, with the priests who would sacrifice them on their behalf. And the Kohanim would offer a mixture of wine and grain. They would sanctify the Sabbath day and call it holy. They would wash their hands and their bodies, and then they would make the offering. And while their bare feet remained on the temple stones, their hearts and their neshamas would go elsewhere. Somewhere else. Somewhere beyond. And all of Israel knew this. And it was the envy of all of Israel, that these select few got to go where no one else could, to a place of peace, to a place of understanding, to a place of perspective. Today, our temple lies in ruins, but the toppled stones of our great temple do not lie in the dust in vain. Those remains are there to tell us that we don't need to be envious anymore, because that peace is now offered to all of us, to every last one of us. It is there for you each and every week to take that juice or that wine, to close your eyes, to sprinkle your bread with salt, not so you can escape all of this, but so that you can know that all of the meshugas around us is not all there is. It's not even close. There is goodness. There is peace. There is. And you deserve it. Shabbat Shalom.